We all start somewhere. Where do you start? So I myself am a creative, and I think that's the big part of producing this documentary, sort of spreading that to other people, sort of promote the idea that everybody can be creative, sort of experimenting with what you really love. And I think that having this as a film that I can give to other people and say, yes, you can create, you are an artist. That is why I chose to create it, and that is where I started. So where do you personally start?
So I would love to say that I start out with this beautiful sketchbook and this planned out idea, but it's absolutely not how it goes. I just jump right into the canvas. I find that the white canvas can be intimidating, so I always pick a color and I cover the whole thing. I then take paint and I sketch out just ideas on the canvas, knowing that I can always cover it up. So I really go in with not a whole lot of plan, but just this freedom to let the painting become what it will become.
Like with art, I think I started really doing art with caricatures, and then I moved to digital art, and then I realized that I sort of needed to express myself in more ways than just characters. So I moved into abstract art and impressionistic styles.
I think I start with my intuition. That usually looks like an instant knowing of this is what I need to do. And whether that is opening a new store, starting a painting, beginning a photography project, redesigning a space, all of those begin with an initial intuitive hit. That is something that I trust so deeply. I've learned to go with it, trust it, and figure it out as I go along.
So I really started drawing in elementary school, and I loved animals in elementary school. I always drew tigers and snakes and stuff like that. People would come over, especially my teachers and my classmates, and they'd be like, wow, and that's when I was starting to notice this might be my thing. This is kind of a safe space for me, and I feel like this is kind of something I'm kind of meant to do, so that's where I started.
Okay, so how I got into it. I took a little side class when my kiddos were little, and then I went back to it. And then when I went back to it, it was in Fort Collins in this old house building. The woman who was teaching us, her wheel was in front of the fireplace, and I watched her throw. It's gonna sound cheesy, but like magic, I fell in love with it. I wanted to do it before I even was doing it, which is insane for this medium to know that you want it so bad before you even really try it. So that's kind of where it started. It starts out with that bag of clay that is so exciting because there's so much potential of making something in a lot of different ways.
I definitely started as a kid, growing up, looking at different art pieces to capture that image. It totally pushed my imagination. Then I didn't know how far it could go. And it's still growing. And then I just take my imagination and put it on paper.
When did you first sort of start calling yourself an artist?
So that took a while. I think probably within maybe 2 years of doing it. Once I made the first thing that I was truly proud of, once that was complete, that kind of locked in my feeling of being an artist. You know, making something for somebody I love and somebody who's supported me and cared about me a lot, it was just cool. It felt great.
Do you have any suggestions for people who probably want to pursue jewelry or pursue art in general?
I would say just don't overthink it. Just do it. Once you start really getting into the thoughts of how am I going to do this for a living? How am I going to pay my rent? Blah, blah, blah. I think that's the main killer for a lot of people. Yeah, I would just say is don't overthink it. If you feel like you want to do it, I think a big part for me is that finding jewelry was such a relief. A big stress in my life is worrying about what I'm going to do every day. Not necessarily finding a job, but am I going to like that job for the rest of my life? But if it's something that you know that you'd like to do for the rest of your life, then just do it. Yeah.
Where does your personality mix with your craft? Where do you think those two intertwine?
It mixes and it clashes, but I would say my attention to detail, just being meticulous about every single thing I do. A lot of the stuff I do is under a microscope. I kind of try to make everything look as best as possible, which can be tough, because I put a lot of extra work into it. But as long as things look great under the microscope, I think they're going to look good by the naked eye. That's probably the biggest part. And then just trying to be organized. Organization's tough for me in my personal life, and so trying to have an organized plan of how I'm going to do something something and, you know, sticking to steps. I think those things kind of challenge me and help me as far as that stuff, yeah.
So the first question is, how do you outwardly express your art?
Okay, so as an artist, I have found that I need to really diversify and find different ways to reach a lot of people. So I'm a painter to begin with. I do a lot of community events. Those are my favorite because I get to connect with, just get out there with people and get feedback and talk to others. And so I do pop-up events throughout the year. I also have joined Trimble Core Artisans in Old Town Fort Collins. I'm able to share my art there as well as through my website.
So when did you first call yourself an artist?
I mean, literally always, I don't know. I was known as the art kid from like kindergarten on, you know. I was dressed like one too, so I don't know. I just always have been.
I think when I started taking art classes in high school, I started to see that there was some potential for work in this industry. I graduated high school in 1997, so this has been a few years. But I don't know that I specifically titled myself as an artist, but I think I started to feel like an artist. I investigated majoring in photography. I was like, I just don't know if I could make a career doing photography. Fast forward, even after my ultimate degree, which was interior design, I became a photographer. So you should just trust yourself. But I think most recently is when I've owned it the most, for sure.
I think it was around middle school where I stopped drawing like animals and I started to draw people. It was nothing special, it wasn't like Van Gogh or anything. My middle school art's still really bad. I started taking things like more seriously when middle school started, and that's when I think I started my Instagram in middle school and stuff like that. So,
Do you have any suggestions for artists out there?
Never stop learning. I think that people get really intimidated by art. I know when I was younger, I was always worried that I wasn't an artist and not good enough. And I think, you know, I'm not really great at ice skating, but if I did it, you know, 15 minutes to an hour every day, I'd get really good at it. And I think you have to be humbled and be vulnerable and be able to be bad at something until you're really good at something. So I think just keep trying and try all sorts. I mean, I like working with ink and pen and watercolor, but I think just keep trying, keep learning, you know, you'll find it. Everyone's creative in their own way. It's just finding what works for you.
What do you think is your main inspiration?
I think definitely pop culture and see what people like or what's popular, and I can draw that and express my feelings of that. I can definitely draw like different colors and express all that and have fun with drawing and creating.
Definitely the outdoors. Like, I spend a lot of time outside. That's where I can think, like it's where I can go and like escape in a way where ideas will come to me.
Probably downtime. Yeah, probably downtime, quiet time, all of those things. When I'm doing those things, that's when I find that I'm most inspired.
I wrote that I think it's like mostly the places I go. I don't know, it's mostly about the color of certain places, like mountains and like scenery.
So my main inspiration has usually been me. When I was little, I was never really into sports. I think the last time I played a sport was like soccer when I was like 7. Art was something I always kind of turned to. When it comes to like character design and digital art, it's always been pretty self-taught, and I've picked up like my own little tricks along the way. It's kind of like a safer space for me to just come back to, and it's something I really love, so it's always been kind of me.
Okay, so my inspiration, obviously we moved to Colorado, and I'm going to say, you know, the world around us, right? We're really fortunate to live in a beautiful natural environment, which is like a playground. But I am also super inspired by design, like I said before, architecture, the movement of pieces and shapes and stuff like that. So it's natural world and also like the design world of how things are made.
We all start somewhere.